I kind of had to look over my speech 2 or 3, 4 times and make sure I didn't forget anybody, because obviously it was a few years, but there was so many people that were part of my upbringing here with the Rochester Americans. So I know that I will forget people. I mean, it's inevitable, but everybody that helped me get to where I wanted to be, I'm just very thankful, and it's a great honor, and I'm excited.
When you mentioned the upbringing, do you think that's important for kids to realize when they're here, that this is a stepping stone to greater and better things, and if you perform here, you'll get rewarded with moving up?
Absolutely. I mean, my very first year here with Rochester, we had a tough time. It wasn't really a good year for us, but we learned a lot from it, and then got that winning culture really the second year, and I think we were really well taken care of by the organization, by the coaches, and by the fan in the city of Rochester. And you see that same culture and that same commitment to the Rochester Americans being put in place right now by the Pagulas, by Jason Bottrill, and by the whole Sabres organization. So it's very exciting. I mean, there's nights where I keep saying to everybody, we'll be watching the Sabres game, and doing it in studio and on the computer. Brian Duff's got the Amherst game going, and we're watching both games at the same time, and really invested into what they're doing here in Rochester, because it's really the future of the organization and the future of the Buffalo Sabres too. So it's exciting.
How special is it to have your family here with you? I know I saw a daughter of yours, I think, wearing a Biron jersey in the back there.
It's so excited because I mean, my wife and I started dating while I was here with the Rochester Americans, so it's kind of looking back like almost 20 years ago. But the kids, they're getting to an age now when they can understand what's going on. They never got to see me play here in Rochester. They barely got to see me play in Buffalo. I think probably just my son, but he was a couple years old when I left the Sabres. So so to know that Daddy was once pretty cool on the ice is fun for them to see. They asked so many questions on the ride here today, like, what is this? What are we doing tonight? And telling my 7-year-old, well, we'll go on the ice, and she goes, are we gonna have to skate? Like, it's so fun. And yeah, obviously they know me as Dad, so it's kind of a little interesting for them to see that I used to do something that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's great to have my parents, my in-laws, people that have supported me, friends, my wife here. So yeah, it's great to have everybody here.
Your hockey career has taken you kind of all over the place, all around the NHL. The thoughts to coming back here where it kind of all got started and you really kind of set the pace and the tempo for your career? Yeah,
I mean, there were some high highs and there were some low lows here with the Rochester Americans. I remember walking into Brian McCutcheon's office, and he says, Marty, it's not going the way we want it to go. You're going to go down to the East Coast Hockey League. And I mean, that was, at the time, the East Coast was 3-4 steps away from the National Hockey League. It wasn't what it is now, as competitive as it is now. I'd already played games in the National Hockey League. Now I was in the AHL, and now I was being sent to the East Coast League. It was tough. And I still remember the day I came back to Rochester and that game against Kentucky. And, I tell everybody, the goalie coach at the time, Mitch Corn, said to me at the end of the season, he gave me framed clippings of the paper the next day, and he said, remember that game? Because that's the day you're going to be going back on the right track. And yeah, to this day, that was the game that changed, the moment that changed my whole career. So yeah, that was my first year, a lot to learn. I was very inexperienced to that, and then my second year, we just took off, right, and never really looked back. So yeah, there was a lot of lesson learned here in Rochester, and it made a big difference throughout my whole career, and also throughout what I'm doing right now, and in life. So that's good.
What's your favorite memory playing here in Rochester?
I would have to say my favorite memory would be the Calder Cup finals against the Providence Bruins. I mean, my second year, the whole playoffs was pretty special. We played Adirondack in the first round. I think we swept them in 3 games. Ended up playing the Hamilton Bulldogs, and the rivalry with Hamilton for those 2 years was pretty intense. And we lost, we won the first 2, lost the next 2, and then came back playing Philly after that, where we went down 2-0, and Philly had just beaten us the year before. They had just won the Calder Cup. So I still remember we had a goal here in Game 5 where I think it may have been kicked in. I'm just going to say I'm not sure, but it was in overtime, and I think Craig Fisher may have kicked that puck in, but we got off the ice so quick, and we showered, and we were out of here before the referees could even discuss what had just happened. But yeah, it was a special year, and those moments, that Calder Cup finals run, we didn't win, but you know, just to get a chance to play in a championship like that was pretty special.
Do you remember the atmosphere? It seems like that's something that's being talked about, that the Amherst are playing better, but maybe attendance is still down. What this city would be like if there was another deep playoff run. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. And when you're thinking about it, I mean, maybe they were very lucky and spoiled at the same time, because when I came in, they had just won a Calder Cup a couple of years before. They routinely were in the finals or competitive in the playoffs. So I remember, you know, people showing up 9,000-10,000 strong towards the end of the season. We had a couple, you know, especially the second year, great year. And then the first round of the playoffs comes in, and there's like nobody there, and they're like, well, they're waiting because they know that, well, you know, we have a good team, we could get to the end. But I would say like the second round, it started to buzz, and the building was going, and the atmosphere around. I mean, you're looking into the month of May, and spring is, you know, it's nice outside, and so yeah, it was really special. And I came to a few games, and last year when I was here for Legends Night, I mean, my son was so happy and having so much fun watching the game. So I think it's a great family atmosphere, and the success obviously is going to make a big difference into having people in the stands as well.
What's it mean to go into the hall when you look at all the guys that are in there already, and now Marty Biron's name is going to be listed with all them? It's
pretty special. I remember practicing at what now is Bill Gray's ice arena, and you know, they had the kind of pictures of some of the legends in the history of the Rochester Americans on the walls, and I remember looking around to all of those guys, and yeah, it's such a storied franchise. You know, the Rochester Americans, that, you know, I want to say them and the Hershey Bears are probably have the longest running franchise in all of hockey right now. So to know that you know, when you played here, it's a special team, a special organization, a special city to play for. And to be honest with you, when Jody Gage called me and told me the news that I was going to the Hall of Fame, I really didn't believe it. I mean, it took me a while to just realize it, because, you know, I think of so many players that are deserving or have gotten into the Hall of Fame here in Rochester, and I'm like, I just feel very fortunate, very lucky to be one of them.